Yeah, let's get into it. So you guys might know Graham Elwood. He used to be a fixture of the Jimmy Dore Show, along with Ron Placone. Graham was basically Jimmy Dore's right-hand man. Now, you probably wouldn't know that if you just started tuning into the Jimmy Dore Show over the last couple of years, because Graham Elwood has been basically persona non grata at the Jimmy Dore Show. He doesn't really seem to be friends with Jimmy anymore. He's obviously not being invited back onto the show anymore. And that's all really because of a disagreement that Jimmy and Graham had over vaccines, and specifically vaccine mandates. Graham Elwood basically pushed back pretty heavily when Jimmy Dore started to go down the anti-vax route and basically turned his channel into an anti-vax channel. I mean, for the longest time, and I think probably still to this day, if you go to Jimmy's show, it's like fucking 75% of his content is about the vaccine.
So it's basically the Global Inquirer at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, obviously I don't see eye to eye with Jimmy on the vaccine stuff. Even if I did though, it's kind of like the turf thing. It's like, even if I did agree with Jimmy's takes on COVID and the vaccine, is that all you people want to watch? Like, don't you get bored of fucking watching video after video after video after video? That's a different conversation altogether. But basically, Graham disagreed with Jimmy on the subject of the vaccine. And he was like, I'm a comedian. I tour all around. And if I'm going to be doing a comedy show in the midst of a fucking deadly pandemic, yeah, I hope that the people in attendance are vaccinated. I don't have a problem with there being a mandate in that sense to protect entertainers like me and people at the grocery store and anyone in any occupation that's having to expose themselves to the diseased masses. Like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? And it would have been one thing if Jimmy Dore said, oh, well, you're my friend and longtime collaborator. Of course, I accept your difference of opinion and want to make sure that that perspective is also present on my panel and on my show. But no, that's not what happened. Jimmy had Graham on for one debate that was really contentious, and Jimmy was quite rude throughout, and then banned Graham Elwood from his show, and seemingly just unfriended him entirely IRL, because they definitely aren't on good terms anymore, as will soon be revealed by this clip that we're going to react to. But yeah, I thought that, the disagreement aside, obviously you're always going to have disagreements with your homies, but I just can't imagine kicking someone off your show. Someone is a longtime friend of the show, a longtime collaborator, basically your co-host, kicking them off the show and basically just excommunicating them from your personal and public existence based on a disagreement, based on a political disagreement. That's crazy to me. And clearly Graham was pretty affected by it as well, because this is the third or fourth time he's publicly commented on it. We've reacted a few of those times, and reacted to what Graham said about Jimmy, but this is the latest in a line of Graham calling out Jimmy Dore in public when asked about it. Greg Fitzsimmons, who I'm actually not familiar with. This is the first time I've been exposed to Greg. You said he's a pretty funny comic, Zach. I'll take your word for it. But he basically asked Graham, weren't you associated with that Jimmy Dore character? Whatever happened to that? And we'll react to what Graham responds with. Let's take a listen.
All right, let's talk about you do this podcast that's called The Political Vigilante, and you also do Government Secrets?
Yes, with Lee Camp.
And what happened? Were you doing one with what's his name? With what's his name? You do a political podcast with Jimmy Dore.
Oh, I used to be on his show every once.
Oh, you were on his show.
Yeah.
So now I haven't been following Jimmy Dore, but I understand he's gotten pretty conservative.
Yeah, he's gone a little. I think it's summer of 21. We started I haven't been on the show in a while because we had a debate on the show about vaccine mandates. I was in favor of them.
Yeah,
he was not. And then he said it was okay that Rittenhouse was acquitted, and I was like, dude. And that really kind of, I was like, man, I didn't think the Jimmy Dore Show was going to become a quoting Blue Lives Matter.
He's gone that far, right?
In certain issues. I mean, when I was on I love being on the show because he was very anti-war. He was very Medicare for all, which I believe he probably still is. And he's very sort of left progressive, was a big Bernie supporter in 2016. And, was very much like calling out the Democratic Party under the auspices of, we already know the Republicans are awful, but the Democrats need to be held accountable for their bullshit. And I really gravitated to that. It was really cool. And we did a lot of fun shows together, but then I don't know, COVID drew this big wedge between so many people. And we had this debate about it on his show, and some of his audience was cool and emailed me and say, I respect the fact that you're willing to debate. And, and then a lot of people just like, fuck you sell out to big pharma. And I was
no shit. Yeah.
It was like, wow. It was just like, I was like, I don't want to be a part of this cult shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he actually encouraged me to start my show, Political Vigilante, because after Trump got elected, I was like,
Yeah, that's the main part that I wanted to react to, Zach. What did you think about what Graham said? Do you agree with his comments on the direction that Jimmy Dore's taken over the last couple of years?
Oh, of course, dude. Of course. And here's what I think speaks so well to Graham's character. It's like, I've busted Graham's balls before. I'm a content creator. Sometimes he's said things in the past that I disagreed with, and I was like, fuck this guy. Rah, rah, rah. But, I don't have any animosity towards the dude at all. And I think that the way that he's able to unpack this, like, I mean, I imagine he was being compensated at least somewhat well from the Jimmy Dore Show. It's a massively popular show, opening sets for Jimmy when he tours around. Like, this is a good gig. And for him to just be like, man, I watched this guy say some crazy shit. I tried to debate him about it, and then he just went even worse, man. It was like, oh, Kyle Rittenhouse deserved to be acquitted. Are you fucking kidding me? He shot a guy, and you think that he doesn't belong in jail? Oh, self-defense, like, you fucking crazy Tucker Carlson dick sucker, right? Like, of course, that's what we were all thinking. I guarantee you that's what Graham was thinking, but at least he's like, one, I think it's hilarious that Greg Fitzsimmons, longtime LA comedian Jimmy Dore, this guy, Greg Fitzsimmons, is like the number one, like, journeyman comedian, has no idea what the fuck this guy's name is. In case you go, Jimmy actually is funny. No, he's not. Okay, no, he's not. He realized that he could press the right boomer dopamine buttons and get a big show on YouTube. Okay, you don't have to be a comedian to do that. You have to be a good con man, and that's what Jimmy's really good at. He's confident in his own story, and he doesn't waver from it. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. So while we shredded Jimmy's reputation as a comic, as a stand-up, right? He's more of a sit down, if you will. Graham over here is willing to just calmly be like, yeah, dude, he had this cult worshipers, and that's just not who the fuck I am. That's not what I want to be a part of, right? Like, I'm a comedian. I want to make people laugh. I want to make people have a good time. I want to make people feel good about themselves. I want to roast the corrupt establishment with an audience of people who are, regular Joes, and have us get the last laugh at these assholes, right? Like, that is the ethos that I get from Graham Elwood, right? He's not chasing the stardom. He doesn't need the adulation, the fucking crowd of fucking people that are going to tell him he's the only truth teller, he's the only righteous fighter, blah, blah, blah. He's just going to go on his own moral compass. He's just going to go with what he thinks is right. And even if I disagree with him, like, he got really into crypto, I think was one of the big disagreements that we had when we reacted to one of his fucking videos. But I disagree with him on that. But clearly he thinks that that's a way for, the people to liberate themselves from the corporate tyranny and the United States stranglehold on the dollar. I think that's deeply misguided and will only hand power to more nefarious corporate entities. That's why I'm not a libertarian, even though I hate our government, right? I would apply the same logic to cryptocurrency. But shout out to you, falsificationism. I don't stand anyone, but I still listen to Jimmy and Graham. Graham is being overwhelmingly reasonable here. Yeah, and to be fair, I've heard Graham talk about Jimmy when he was feeling less gracious, right? Like, he went off about his couple of Porsches and the fact that he treats everybody like shit, and how, he's got an overhead now, and that's why he has to peddle people the fucking swill that he does. Like, in the past, it probably took Graham a while to feel like assured of himself after that falling out, because you do have to, it's kind of like Jackson Hinkle, right? Like, Gavin and I used to really consider ourselves like neck and neck with Jackson Hinkle, and we were always trying to one up him or get more views than him. And now he's gone off the absolute batshit crazy pills, and his career has never been more successful. But at some point I stopped holding myself to that standard, because I was like, well, that's the standard for somebody that has no principles, that wants to sell out, that only is interested in capital, only interested in clout, fame, access, nice apartments and hotels, whatever. I am doing the thing where I actually try and build a community with people who trust that I'm giving them the fucking analysis that I believe in. I'm trying to play the long game. I'm trying to be doing this, and have my conscience with me for the long run. right? And I think that that's where Graham has ended up. And I don't know if saying I'm proud of him is the right word, but it's admirable of him is maybe the better way of putting